Remember, TEDx are all about ideas. They don't book speakers, they book ideas. That's the most important thing I tell people, and it really blows people's minds.
I have one of the world's most elite TEDx coaches, speechwriters, and just overall guru when it comes to getting on the red dot. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, my man, my brother, Brian Miller. Brian, welcome to the show.
Oh, Robin, thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled that we could catch up again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's been a while. I know you have a lot happening, but you know the people want the value. And I know you are locked and loaded to deliver, so we won't waste any time. Just for the sake of the episode, I have to ask you about your TEDx journey as a speaker. Before we go into tactical, strategic, points and nuggets for our aspiring TEDx speakers, I want to talk about your experience. Talk to me about how to magically connect with people and what led you to that. I know you have a background in magic, so just give the people a little bit of background on your TEDx journey.
Yeah, for sure. So it was 2015. I'm still a full-time magician at this point. That's my first career. I was a full-time magician for about 10 years and brought myself up from doing local backyard barbecues, local restaurants, to touring the country and eventually internationally as a magician. And I remember, I'll never forget. It's late, it's dark. I'm walking in through a parking lot into a event venue where I'm going to be doing magic tricks at a corporate event for the evening. And as I'm walking in, my phone rings, and it's a number I don't know. And when you're self-employed as a magician, it could be a potential client. You got to answer. So I answer, but I'm like walking into this gig. So I answer. I'm like, "Hi, it's Brian, a magician. Like, how can I help you?" And this guy goes, "Hi, I'm putting on a local TEDx conference here at the local high school. I got your name from some people. Would you be interested or consider speaking at our TEDx conference?" That was like literally my introduction to the world of TED. And I had been watching TED Talks since I was in college, because this was kind of still the early days of the TED and TEDx program. And it had never even occurred to me I could do a TED Talk. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't on my bucket list. It was just, that seemed like something for famous people, for like real. I was just a magician. I was just in my clown shoes doing card tricks. And so, but I'm walking, I go, oh my God, yes, I would be so honored. I would love to do that. I'm actually walking in to do a gig. Can we talk tomorrow? And he goes, sure, I'll call you tomorrow. And we hang up and I go in and do 2 hours of card tricks. And that phone call changed my life.
I think it's so different, because we've had the opportunity, I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to so many TEDx speakers here on this show, and most people's stories are very different than that. I think you're the first that got a call. People have been tapped, by an organizer that they knew maybe, but someone handing your information off to them for them to reach out to you to kind of initiate that journey is wild. I want to ask you a follow-up to that. So how soon in the TEDx journey did you know that, what? Yes, I'm a speaker. Yes, I'm a magician, but I want to help people get onto the stage. When did you have that shift? I'm really curious to know about the inception of your journey as a coach.
Yeah. So that was years. The first pivot was I gave this TEDx talk, and it was held at a high school, and it was run by high school students. I mean, these were 15, 16-year-olds running this conference. And when you go watch a video, you could tell. Like, you can tell. And they didn't even level normalize the audio in post. They didn't know. So it's like minus 18 dB audio. It's like so low. If you crank your speakers, you can barely. It's a miracle anybody watched it, let alone 3.5 million people, right? So it goes viral. And I get asked all the time, how did you make your talk go viral? You don't make talks go viral. I sent it to everyone I'd met in my entire life on day one when it hit YouTube. So it's like, I forget who used this phrase. Someone used it. I exhausted my Rolodex on day one. Anyone I'd ever met in the grocery store. So I sent it to 800 people on day one. And it stalled out at about 1,200 views after about 2 weeks. That was it. 1,000 views, a little over that. And after 2 weeks, I was like, all right, gave it my best shot, worked for a bunch of months. Cool thing I did, back to card tricks. And then a week later, my wife and I are at the airport. We're flying to West Palm Beach to visit my grandparents. I'll never forget it. Bringing her to visit my grandparents. And we're at the airport waiting for the flight, and my wife goes, "You didn't tell me your talk hit 2,000 views." And I was like, I didn't. What are you talking about? I open up YouTube. It's at 2,000 views. By the time the plane lands in West Palm 2.5 hours later, it's at 4,000 views. By the end of that weekend, it's at 10,000 views. And a few weeks later, within a month of hitting YouTube, it's at 100,000 views. And then within 6 months, 1 million. And then it climbed to 3.5 million. So it just took off, took a life of its own. And I started getting invited all over the world to speak instead of do magic. Like, do some magic in your speeches, but can you give your TED talk, but for like an hour? Like, it was like that. And I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't dreaming of being a speaker. I had no training as a speaker. And they wanted me to talk as an expert on human connection, which I wasn't. I had 14 minutes and 11 seconds to say on that topic, and I said it in my TEDx talk. You know what I mean? And so I just started reading everything you could read and learning everything you could learn, talking to anybody who knew anything about the psychology of social interaction, anything. And because I was so nervous about looking like an idiot when I was starting to accept these really high fee speaking engagements, I just didn't want to disappoint anybody. I accidentally became the expert people thought I was from obsessing over that content for years. So to your question, when did I shift to coaching people on doing their TEDx talks? That was also effectively a cold call that I got. I got a cold email from somebody 3 years later. So for the next 3 years, I transitioned into speaking slowly. I kind of slowly moved out of magic into speaking. About 2018, I got an email from a woman who said, "Hey, you've never heard of me. We've never met. I just got invited to give my first TEDx talk. You gave one of my favorite TEDx talks I've ever seen. Totally different topic than yours, but can you teach me how to give a talk as good as the one that you gave on my topic?"
Wait. Stop the press. So you're telling me, Brian Miller, that you got a call that initiated your TEDx journey as a speaker, and then you got another call that initiated your journey as a coach?
Yeah.
That is wild.
It is wild, and there's a lot to unpack there. That's maybe for a different follow-up conversation. I talk about the role of luck in success a lot. I don't think enough successful people talk about the role of luck. Luck plays way bigger role than people let on. People like to tell these perfect hero's journeys in reverse, where they pretend as if they always knew what they were doing. It's just BS. Most of the time, success, you got to work really hard. You got to nurture your talent, make connections, build relationships. You got to do all that stuff. Absolutely. Work your ass off and get lucky, right? People forget and get lucky. And so, yeah, both of these situations were luck. And the key to a lucky moment is, do you know how to leverage it? Do you know what to do with it? Are you willing to take it? Are you willing to say yes? And I got to tell you, I don't speak to students as often as I used to. I used to speak to hundreds of college campuses. I only do a couple a year now. But when I speak to students, so often when they're confused or lost or they don't know what to do with their life, they haven't found their passion, I tell them so often we are staring up into the sky, hoping for a lucky moment to fall into our lap when we're missing the actual lucky moments because they're right in front of us and they look like other people. Lucky opportunities look like people. That's why we miss them. You have to talk to people. You have to say yes. So this woman asked me, "Can you coach me on a TEDx talk? Have you ever done that before?" I had never done that. I didn't even know how I gave mine. It was luck. But I say yes first and figure it out later. That's my game plan. That's what I do in life. I do whatever's next. And this seemed like whatever's next. So I said, sure, we could do that. And I charged her what is now a laughably small amount of money, but I was so nervous. I think I charged $100 a session, like an hour or whatever. And I did 6 sessions with her. And I just said, here's what I did. And I just took her through what I did to write mine. She gave her talk a few months later. It hit YouTube. It gets 300,000 views, which is still proper viral back then. Like millions was nuts. 300,000 views in the early days. This is still proper viral. She ends up quitting her consulting firm, founding a boutique consulting agency that now employs something like 20 plus people full time. She completely transformed her life and went on a big mission as a result of that. She handed my name to somebody else. They hired me. And after a couple of years of that, I went, maybe this is actually a real company or a real program. And then I founded Conquer the Red Dot.
That is such an inspiring story. So let's talk about soon to be TEDx speakers getting on the red dot. Let's do it from two different aspects. I'd like, because anytime we have a coach, we've had the pleasure of having a couple of coaches on the show. I want to attack it from both ways. Independently, I'm a speaker who wants to get on the red dot on my own. And then later on in the episode, I'd like to talk about what it looks like with coaching services or support services like your company. So I'm a soon to be TEDx speaker. Where do I start? Just give me the fast and dirty breakdown of where they need to start.
Totally. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, you're thinking about spending the next 18 plus months and 200 hours of your life working on a 10-minute talk that you're going to give once. Why? And that's enough to scare most people away. And the people who are scared by that question should not do a TEDx talk. Don't hire a firm. Don't invest your time. It's not worth it. Most people should not do a TEDx talk. And this is not me being elitist. It's me saying the investment, forget money if you decide to hire proper coaching. And it's almost impossible to do a great job these days without real support, whether you pay for it or not, but you need support these days. But forget that for a second. Even if you're going to do it on your own, the investment of time and energy is not worth it to most people. What most people who want to do a TED Talk are looking for is, one, the logo on their website. There's other ways to get authority, right? You don't need to do a TEDx talk. It's nuts. A lot of people, they want to feel seen. They want to tell their story. They've been through something really hard and they've come out the other side, and it inspires people, and they think TEDx is a platform for that. It is not. It's a platform for spreading ideas. There are lots of platforms for sharing your story and finding like-minded communities. TEDx is actually not one of them. TEDx organizers, they don't book speakers. They book ideas. So if what you have is a story, go to Speaker Slam, go to The Moth, go to Toastmasters. There's lots of places to do that are built for that. Don't do a TEDx talk. And of course, if you're just looking to get more clients, just get better at sales and marketing. Why do a TEDx talk? You know what I mean? It's a long play. It could take you 12, 18, 24 months to end up on that stage. Then you're going to wait for it to come out, and then you need to learn how to leverage it. It's a long game. So the first question I ask somebody who's thinking about the red dot, and I know this sounds harsh, but I think there's too many people in my position blowing smoke just to get people to sign up for their programs. No, man, this is not the right platform for most people. But if you heard me say that, if I went, hey, 18 months, 200 hours, why are you going to do this yourself? And you felt this urge to dig in your heels and defend your decision, let me tell you, eyebrows. Let me tell you why. If you're just listening to this, you can't tell I have giant eyebrows. So if you're ready to defend that, this might be for you, right? It's kind of like when I was a magician and I was doing stand-up comedy and I was in comedy clubs. People get up and try stand-up once, right? They try to do a 5-minute stand-up at an open mic and they bomb, right? Silence, boos, no one laughs. The people who can't wait to get on stage next Tuesday and try it again, they're going to make it as a comedian. That's why I ask that harsh question first. It's, are you even in the right mindset? Is this the right vehicle for you?
Love that. So, yes, this is the right vehicle for me. I'm a specialist in modular music, artificial intelligence, and I have to share this idea. I want to do a TEDx event close to my house. What do I do?
Yeah, okay. So I want to do a TEDx event close to my house. So in that case, if you're looking at geographic location, you're not willing to travel much or too far, then obviously so this may not be obvious. The first step, honestly, is figure out the ones that are within driving distance that would be considered local. Reach out and ask how you can volunteer. Volunteer for this year's 100%. Don't even think about your idea yet. Volunteer, get on the other side, contribute. If you have the benefit of having money, sponsor an event. Same thing. Help out, get on the other side. That's also not what I did not just say was pay to play. That is not pay. Sponsoring it, hoping that someday that you'll be able to get on that stage. That's not pay to play. That's putting yourself in a situation where then you can be useful and be helpful and build the relationships and learn about the system.
Yep.
But 100%. Do that first and start to understand what the organizers, what they're looking for, what great TEDx talks look like, what applications are obviously bad. If you don't know what a bad application looks like, you'll do one. You'll do it 100 times in a row too. I get people that go, I submitted 127 applications before I got accepted. And I just go, how did you make it past 5? How did you even say, didn't you learn anything from the first 5 rejections? Like, you got to learn what's not working. Don't do 127. What are you doing?
That's good, Brian. You know, I have an episode early on in my journey with this show, and some of the things you pointed on, just because of my own personal journey, you hit it right on the head. Especially the volunteering as well as the sponsorship piece. And I find that so many of, you know how it is. Like, someone does a talk now, everyone wants to talk about the talk or whatever it is. And some of the conversations that I've had, especially with aspiring speakers or aspiring TEDx speakers, they're always like, I don't want to, like, I'm just applying blindly. Like, I'm just putting them out there. And some teachers and maybe people in the coaching space might encourage that,
Yep.
And for me, I like the idea of honing in. One of our guests came on and told me that he reached out to his school that he graduated from. That was and I thought that was something that people maybe don't speak about enough. It's like, hey,
Yep.
try to find the alignment with whatever the chapter that you're interested in speaking at. Find the alignment and then start there first. And I think that
Yeah.
that's powerful. That sponsorship and volunteerism are things that you teach as well.
Yeah, and so I mean, here's the thing, right? So there's a huge amount of stuff. Like, we haven't even talked about the idea itself and how to build what an idea even is, how to build a great idea, what should go on a TEDx application, the way to frame it. We can talk about all that stuff. But first and foremost, like the speaking industry itself, the world of TEDx is a relationship industry. Organizers have an incredibly, first of all, they're full-time they're volunteers. People don't realize they sometimes lose money out of their own pocket putting these events on. It can take 9-10 months to put on one of these events. They're giving virtually no support by TED, like TED. They aren't given monetary support. They have to bootstrap or find sponsorships or find whatever. So make these people, the people organizing these events are going through a tremendous amount of stress for free to put on this awesome event. Make their life easier, man. Like, first of all. So, of course, if they only have 8 or 10 spots, they're going to want to give most of them to people that they already trust to do a good job. They can't trust you if they don't know you. It's a relationship industry. People don't get booked for, $20,000 keynote speeches because the event planner Googled for speakers. No, they're asking colleagues and people at other conferences for trusted speakers. Same with TEDx. TEDx organizers are going to ask around. Who do you know? Who do you trust? Who could do a great job? Who's not going to be a pain in our ass, right? So when speakers are applying blindly, what they don't realize often is that the applications are optional. TEDx organizers are not required to have open applications. They're actually encouraged not to have open applications, by the way. They're encouraged not to precisely for this reason, because open applications encourage people who are just trying to get a TED Talk to stick the logo on their website or sell their next book. And if they do have open applications, they're not required to choose anyone from them. I know an organizer that used to get over 500 applications every single year, and something like 8 years in a row never chose a single speaker for their conference from the open applications. Not one in 8 years. And I said, why did you even have it then? They said, we were hoping to find a diamond in the rough, someone we'd never heard of, but we never did. So we finally just stopped having open applications and went directly to curation. So this whole, like, people get depressed sometimes. They go, it's all who you know, and I don't know anybody. And I'm like, it's not who you know. It's who you meet. Go meet people. Like,
that's good.
Go connect with people. And volunteering, if you don't have a direct connection, like if your alma mater isn't putting on a conference, if the town you grew up in isn't putting on a conference, if the town you live in or work in isn't putting on a conference, find the nearest one to you and volunteer. You now have a connection to that conference. You're looking for a connection. It doesn't mean you can't apply to one across the other side of the world and get accepted. We have clients who do it. But most of the time they get into those conferences across the world, It's because one of us on my team knows the organizer and facilitated the introduction. And the organizer trusts us because of the quality of the talks we've produced. Therefore, they're willing to have a conversation with our client. It's still an introduction.
Yep. Great. So let's do this. Let's go right into that. So we talked a little bit about if they do it on their own. Now that person is like, you know what? My music, artificial intelligence talk is just not getting any traction. I've applied in 20 places. I've volunteered. I've been a sponsor. I want to hire you. What does it look like for an aspiring speaker to pay for services to help them along their journey?
Yeah, and I'm going to actually answer that with an anti-sell. So let me stay on the path of if you're doing this on your own, because there's just so many things that you can do on your own. The first thing is, if you're hitting brick walls, even if you have a connection to a conference and you're still hitting a brick wall, what that tells me is you don't have an idea. You've got something else. Remember, TEDx are all about ideas. They don't book speakers, they book ideas. That's the most important thing I tell people, and it really blows people's minds. So the speaker's got to be the vehicle for the idea, but not the idea itself. So they don't care if you're a professional speaker. In fact, most TEDx organizers actively discourage people like me now. Like today, it would be much harder for me to book a TEDx talk because I'm a keynote speaker. They don't want perfect, polished speakers. They want experts or leaders, community activists. They want people with ideas. Okay. So what is an idea? An idea is not a topic, right? A topic is not an idea. A topic would be something like the science of balance. That's a topic. If I ask you, what's your idea? And you say the science of balance, you haven't even answered my question. So it's obvious when I say it like that, right? But most people on their applications, they take whatever topic they want to talk about and they put that on there as if that's going to get them booked. It's like, that's not even an idea. It's a topic. The second thing, an issue is not an idea. So if the science of balance is a topic, an issue might be, falls are the leading cause of death in the over 65 population, right? That would be related to the science of balance. But falls are the leading cause of death in the over 65 population or whatever, something like that. That's an issue. It's a problem, but it's not an idea. If I say, what's your idea? And you say, falls are the leading cause of death in the over 65 population, you haven't answered my question. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, a story is not an idea. This is the one that gets people upset. Because as we talked about earlier, many people want to do a TEDx talk because they've been through something really tough. Either rags to riches, trauma to triumph, right? They've got something really deep. And they'll get on the discovery call with me and they'll tell me their story through tears. And I can feel it, and it's powerful and it's moving. And at the end, I have to wipe away my own tear and then look them in the eye and say, I've heard that story 17 times this week already, just with different details. Your story is not as unique as you think it is. It's meaningful to you because you went through it, but there's not that many different stories. And you know that once you start hearing people pitch you the way that we have, the way that TEDx organizers do. So a story is a vehicle through which you help somebody understand an idea. You will tell your story. It will be engaging. It will be powerful, but it's there to support the idea. It is not the idea itself. You won't get booked simply because you have an amazing or tragic story. So the question is, what is an idea? Like, what actually is it then? An idea does two things. An idea proposes a solution and moves people to action. That's an idea. So what would we say an idea is? Let's talk about it. Here's the framework that we use. If you can't fit what you want to talk about into this framework, it might not be an idea. And here's the framework. 2, action, so that impact. Action, impact. Let's break that down. Action. What do you want somebody to do, think about, or rethink as a result of hearing your talk? What do you want someone to do, think about, or rethink as a result of hearing your talk? Impact. And once you've taken that action, what's the positive benefit in your life or your world having done that? So 2 actions, so that impact. Let's go to our balance expert again, right? Science of balance is the topic, An issue is, falls are the leading cause of death in over 65. That's an issue. It's a problem we're going after. Their story, this is a client of ours who gave a talk earlier this year, so it's why it's fresh in my mind. They had a story about watching their mom, who used to be graceful and a dancer, slip and fall, break something, which led to a spiraling effect where she continued to get weaker and weaker and now is hunched over and can't even keep up with a walker without falling over. And it was really sad for her. That's a story that is a vehicle to help understand the idea. What was the idea we put on the application that got her into one of the most prestigious TEDx conferences in America that she had no direct connection to? It was, if you don't want the last years of your life to be the worst years of your life, focus on balance now. That's an action and an impact. So the impact is basically if you don't want the last years of your life to be the worst year, so we just inverted the framework, but we went impact first. Like, if you don't want this terrible thing, in other words, if you want the last years of your life to be really fun and enjoyable, then action, work on balance now, focus on balance now. Now that sounds too simple. When I tell people that, they're like, that's the big fancy idea that got them booked. Yeah, I didn't say it was sexy. I said it was an idea, right?
That's good.
That's the system.
Oh, man.
So that's the first step I would tell somebody. If you're dreaming of the red dot, what you should definitely volunteer. You should do all those things, but start thinking about what you want to talk about and see if you can pare down an action. What do you want someone to do, think about, or rethink after hearing your talk? And impact. What positive result happens in their world or their life as a result of doing that thing? That'll get you on the right path.
That is good. That is good. So, Brian, it seems as if the process to work with you, there's almost like an interview process to qualify people. So you don't work with everybody. You make sure that if you work with someone, you can get them the results that they're after and that they actually have an idea. So as we wind down, I want to make sure folks know how to get in contact with you. I'll also share all of this information in the description of the YouTube version of the episode, as well as the show notes. But I want to make sure they hear from you how to connect with you, and maybe who should reach out and who shouldn't.
Yeah. So if all that made you nervous, so I have a habit of making people nervous because I really don't think most people should be, and I think many people go into the TED style coaching programs based on outrageous promises of fame and fortune, and you're going to book a talk, it's going to be amazing, you get 1 billion views, and then they just get really disappointed because the claim was so outrageous, and they don't realize how much work really goes into it. So first thing is, can anybody do a TEDx talk? Yes. Anybody could do a TEDx talk, but how long it will take you to end up on that stage and how much you can leverage it depends a lot on your circumstances, your available time, your willingness to work through this stuff and flesh it out, right? And it's just something most people aren't willing to deal with. And so we're looking to only bring people into our program that are absolutely ready to do the work required, because that's what keeps our success rate so high. So I'll give you this. On average, across the industry, TEDx conferences only accept between 1% and 5% of all applicants. For most of those conferences, it's close to 1% and 2%. And our private clients have somewhere between an 85 and 90% success rate. Like 85 to 90% of all clients who've ever worked with us have booked a TEDx talk, right? So there are no guarantees. We have an anti-guarantee. We explicitly guarantee nothing because you can't. You're not allowed to guarantee someone a spot on a TEDx stage. TED explicitly forbids it. You see a guarantee from any coaching firm, just for what it's worth. I don't know who else you've had on this podcast. It is a red flag. It explicitly violates the terms of TED, just for what it's worth. We don't guarantee, and you can't anyway. These are people. They're conference organizers. I can't guarantee you getting in there. What I can tell you is we have about as close to a guarantee as you could reasonably hope for. We really know how to do this. So first step is think about what I said, try to build your one sentence, and then go to roadtothereddot.com, just like it sounds, roadtothereddot.com. That's our free scorecard. It's a little self-assessment. It takes you 2 minutes to answer. And it will actually give you a percentage likelihood that an organizer will accept your idea at this moment in time. And it breaks down by 3 categories: by message clarity, emotional resonance, and persuasive power, a percentage as well where you fit in each of those three categories. So you'll know which one you need to work on most, with a few tips for that and a bonus free mini course on the other side of it to get you there. So if you're just curious where you stand, you go on there and you get 62% likelihood, and it goes, hey, you're really high in message clarity because you did the filter framework from listening to Robin's podcast with Brian. So you get higher message clarity, but you get low on persuasive power because you have no idea how to build an argument that moves people to action. Well, you now know where your gap is. And so do we if you then decide to make a call with us. And then the first call we have before we even offer you an invitation into the program, if at all, is going to be, where's the gap in the persuasive power? Because we know that's your gap. Let's talk about that. So roadtothereddot.com is a great place to start.
I love it. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to do a season 2. We're going to do this as a seasonal show. Would you come back and join us? Because I feel like I would love to have this discussion, another layer of discussion with you.
100%.
Cool?
I'd love to do it.
Cool. So we're going to get you booked up as soon as possible. Brian, I appreciate you. Happy holidays, all of that good stuff. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy holidays.